2022. I apologize for not being there live. I was actually tested positive for COVID last week, so I had to sit out last week, which was not too bad since we had a couple of snow days, so I didn't have to use up all my sick days. But I didn't think it was wise to be in there. I'm free to go with all the shots and everything. I could be there, but I thought it was better this way. So again, I apologize for not being there live, and I thank Greg and Andy and everybody for getting this thing set up so I can do it like this. Having said that, Andy, if you will call the roll.
Thank you, Keith, and thanks for being here and remotely. Looks like we got a good crowd, so we'll try to go quick. From Bullitt County, I know we have Keith. Did I see Felicia on there as well, I think?
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. How about from City of Charlestown? Tubby Purcell's in the room, for those out in cyberspace. City of J-Town, I don't believe Matt's here. Matt has a schedule conflict, so he may join us shortly. How about Jeffersonville? Mount Washington?
Yes.
We're here.
Hi, Laurie.
Hi, Andy.
How about from New Albany? Shepherdsville?
Sorry, I was muted, but Larry's here.
Hey, Larry. All right, so from Shepherdsville, I see Mayor Hockenberry and Arthur.
Yes. Yes, Hockenberry's here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, guys. St. Matthews?
Keenan's here.
Keenan? Clark County, I saw Mr. Dixon on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd County?
You don't have to break this thing.
IDEM? NDOT? Jefferson Riverport?
Here.
Miguel? Hey, Miguel.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
How about from Kentucky DAQ? Who's joining us from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet today? I think I saw Pedro on the line.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Tracy Lovell.
Also here with OTD from the cabinet.
Okay. Hey, Tom. Hey, Derek.
Tracy Lovell.
Hey, Tracy. Big crowd today. APCD. I think I saw Michelle.
Yeah. Hi. Michelle's here.
Hey, Michelle. Anybody else, who else from Louisville Metro? I think we've got several, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Dirk's here.
hey, Dirk.
Mike King here.
Hey, Mike.
Amanda Dethridge here.
Amanda.
Joe Reverman.
Reverend's here. Good. Good crowd. Good crowd. I like it. How about from the airport? Oldham County. I think we have the dynamic duo of Jims.
Two Jims.
Jim Silliman here.
Urban.
Thank you, Andy. That's a new nickname we've not heard yet.
How about from Port of Indiana? How about from Clarksville? Mike Keeling, I think we saw.
Carly Metcalf and Robin Bolt are both here.
Okay, Robin and Carly are here. Thank you all for joining us from NDOT.
Before we get started, can I ask Jim Silliman a question? Jim?
Yes.
Did your dad play for St. X?
No, I'm not related to Mike or that.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I just remember when he played, and I thought maybe that might be your father. Okay,
No, sir.
Sorry to interrupt everybody for such personal business.
How about TARC Accessibility Advisory Council, Allie Woodsley?
I'm here and I can represent Louisville Metro government as well.
Well, thank you for joining us. Did I say Clarksville? We found Mike Keeling from Clarksville. Anybody else from Clarksville? I don't think there was. How about from TARC?
Yes, Stuart McLean here.
Hey, Stuart. Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then the advisory members. Who do we have from any of our advisory members, which would include Federal Highways. Nora, did I see you on here?
Yes, Andy. Hello, you all. Nora Akkad from Kentucky Division, FHWA.
Emily Lou just joined.
Emily Lou's on. Thank you very much for joining us, Emily. Anybody from GLI or the trucking associations, Louisville Water? Who else might join us? Vince Trimark. Vince, did I see you on here earlier? I checked you off when I saw. Vince always has words of wisdom, so it must be something if he's not talking. Anybody else from Trimark? Okay. All right. Keith, in the room today we have, other than Tubby Purcell from City of Charlestown, we have several Kefta staff, myself, Greg Burris, Aaron Jones, Elizabeth Fark, Jeremy Shaw, and Nick Vale. So we've got quite a bit of staff here in the room. And then we most certainly have a quorum. Thank you all for attending. It's always
great.
exciting to see so many people in that join us.
Yeah, and it's good to have a big crowd like this, and Andy's going to do the TPC report. But right before that, since Mayor Armstrong brought up gym and basketball and all of that, just a real quick side note with Joe B. Hall passing, there was a story, and it's been true. That when Joe B. Hall first started coaching, he coached Shepherdsville High School and was scared to death of a guard that played for Mount Washington named Barry Armstrong. He was always afraid to bring his team in. So you got that in your back pocket, Mayor. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I know that is a true story. I've heard that. So with that, Andy, if you want to take it away for the TPC report.
Certainly will. Our TPC met on January 27th, just a couple weeks ago, in advance of the Kefta Board of Directors meeting. At the meeting, agenda items of note included the presentation from Spencer Williams of our staff on the environmental justice areas, similar to the same presentation that you all saw last month. Also, Elizabeth presented an update for our performance measures. There are more on performance measures later today, so stay tuned. Nick started or kept the conversation going on, Nick Vale, Kefta staff, kept the conversation going on the new transportation bill. So I would encourage you all to maybe consider joining us at our February TPC meeting, where Federal Highways Kentucky staff will have more information on that in case you're interested in joining us on February 24th. We announced the officers of this committee. Keith Griffey has graciously volunteered to serve another year as our TTCC chair. Matt Meunier, as you might remember, is going to serve as our vice chair this year. And then we had that similar business for TPC. The officers were announced for 2022. Judge David Vogel of Oldham County is the 2022 Kefta TPC chairperson. And the vice chair was nominated and selected and voted on, and that will be Carrie Butler. Carrie Butler, for those that don't know, and I think most of y'all do, Carrie Butler is, of course, the executive director of TARC, so we're excited to have her on as our TPC vice chair for 2022. Beyond that, Nick had some administrative modifications. We did a full-on personnel report because of all the changes in staff that we've had, so that took a minute or two beyond. We recognized Kevin Beatty. Kevin Beatty is the outgoing chair of TPC. So that concludes my report from the TPC committee report. And Keith, we may need to go back to agenda item 2, the meeting minutes from.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I passed right over that trying to get to you, Andy. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion. Jim Silliman.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, just say aye or show of hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Andy. Sorry about that. We're now up to Greg with the public comment. Do we have any public comments coming in?
We did not receive any public comments prior to the meeting, and I do not see any in the chat.
Okay, and Greg, you're still up with the public participation plan update?
Absolutely. Want to let everyone know here on the committee that we completed our public outreach efforts for the draft participation plan update. Among those strategies, we use social media. We also sent out an email blast, as well as sending it out to the libraries of the MPOs. We also sent it out to several business association newsletters, as well as some other groups, and did not receive any relevant comments to the draft participation plan. We were also featured on WDRB.com as well as WDRB, so that was that brought in a lot of good comments, but nothing relevant to the draft public participation plan. Action I'm requesting today is to take this to TPC for their approval, and that's it. Take any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, any questions for Greg on this? If not, is there a motion to pass this on to TPC?
I'll make a motion to move it to TPC.
Oh,
It's Miguel
okay.
Zamora.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
I think I heard Dirk.
Yeah,
Okay.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in fact, is there any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, show of hands or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move that on. Going into the next Amendment 6, Nick Vale. Nick, I think you sent this out. Everybody should have had a chance to see it. So, Nick, you're up.
That's right. Thank you, Keith. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. We've got a short and sweet presentation on about Amendment 6 to the Kentuckiana 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or MTP, and the fiscal year 2020 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. Amendment 6, just for y'all's reference, kind of kick-started at the beginning of January. We had just a handful of projects that had come in since our previous amendment, Amendment 5. We didn't want to make them wait too much longer. So we took the 3 projects that were submitted and did a staff review back in early January. And then from January 24th to the 7th of February, we had our 15-day public comment period. Those comments have been sent to the TPC. I think they were almost unanimously favorable to the project at hand. Today, obviously, is the TTCC recommendation with TPC action on February 24th. You may wonder why there's no air quality conformity analysis for this amendment, and that is because all of the projects are considered exempt from air quality conformity, and that's just because of the nature of the projects being transit project and excuse me, what's the other one? J-Town Bike Ped? J-Town, yeah, streetscape in J-Town. So real quickly, let's just talk briefly about these projects. First off, what Andy just mentioned, the Jeffersontown Watterson Trail Bicycle and Pedestrian Trail Phase 2. We're just basically moving that open to public date out 2 years to 2023. We've got 2 new TARC vehicle purchases that exceeded our group projects thresholds, and they needed to be added to the TIP through this process. And then just another update of an open to public date for TARC's comprehensive operations analysis and strategic plan. So a couple open to public date changes and adding 2 new TARC vehicle purchases was the gist of this amendment. I can take any comments or questions at this time. Otherwise, action is requested.
Any questions for Nick? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept Amendment 6? I guess that's the best way to put it, Nick.
Yeah, I think recommend TPC. I think we have to take them separately, so we traditionally take the MTP first. So recommending TPC approval of Amendment 6 to the MTP.
Okay. Approved.
I'll make that motion, Keith.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye, or raise a hand.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And then the second phase of this is Nick, how should we word this one? Passing it to the TIP.
Recommend TPC approval of Amendment 6 to the TIP.
Yeah, amendment. So moving this on to the TIP, is there a motion?
I'll move
I'll
that
motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll make a second, Hockenberry.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those both move. We move on. Nick, you're still up, and this is for the MPO dedicated funding program.
That's right. So this is kind of my quarterly review of our MPO dedicated programs. It's about a month late. We had some delays due to all the issues that we're going to talk about today in Indiana. So we've met probably 5 or 6 times in the last 2 months with our Indiana folks to try to figure out a solution. Greg's pulling up a presentation for you all. But just a quick background on MPO dedicated programs. So in Kentucky, TPC has the authority to award funds from both the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, aka SLO funds, and the Transportation Alternatives Program. And then in Indiana, there's 4 programs for which TPC has the authority to award funds from, those being the CMAQ program for congestion mitigation and air quality, the HSIP project or program, which is for highway safety improvements, and as well as the STBG and TA project programs that I previously mentioned. About 6 years ago, I would say, maybe 7, a project management process was created to kind of guide us on how these projects are managed and tracked and awarded by the TPC. And then about 2 years ago, we made an update to that. So our new guidance is called the Project Management Guidebook. And in case anyone ever wants to check on the rules and whatnot of these programs, that can be found on our TIP webpage. So taking a quick look at where we are in terms of fiscal year 2022 obligation status in Indiana. We're about halfway through the fiscal year. Their fiscal year runs from July to June, but really the cutoff for most roadway projects is late April, early May. So we're just a couple months away from the kind of the closeout of their fiscal year. In the CMAQ program, we have obligated all of those funds. And in the Highway Safety Improvement Program, we have not obligated any of those. And there's only been a small obligation for the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, as well as the TA program. And I will say that we had a progress review meeting last Thursday, I want to say, with all the project sponsors. And it does look obviously concerning that there's, $3.5 million that's unobligated at this point. But all of the project sponsors who are responsible for the 3 or 4 phases that are left have all indicated that things are on track and they see no issues with obligation prior to the end of the fiscal year. So I'll have hopefully a better update for you in about 2 months from now when we see those obligations come through from NDOT. And this should say Kentucky, my apologies. In the Kentucky side of the river, things are a little bit different because it's not a use it or lose it situation. So we started with a $97 million programmed in this fiscal year, which is obviously a lot. We have about a $60 or $70 million carryover balance, and we receive about $20 million a year in this program. So far, we're only about a first quarter through the fiscal year. KYCC operates on a October to September fiscal year. We saw J-Town's Watterson Trail Phase 1 construction. Those funds were obligated, so I assume they'll probably be working on a letting date fairly soon for that, so look out for construction on Watterson Trail Phase 1. And then Watterson Trail Phase 2 has moved forward through the right-of-way phase, so they are going to begin acquiring those properties that are needed for that project as well. The Kefta's Every Commute Counts program, the annual obligation occurred for $1.1 million, and that makes up the 3.2 that's been obligated so far in the STBG program. In the TA program, I believe there was one design phase of a Louisville Metro sidewalk project that has been obligated at this time. I didn't have the project details this morning. So those are the obligations. Obviously, we're really early in the fiscal year. Generally, we're looking at, hoping for, 20 to 20 plus $1 million in obligations in the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. That'll help avoid us adding to our carryover balance. And then in the TA program, we're hoping to spend probably closer to $2 million to make sure we don't continue to increase that as well. Any questions about Indiana and Kentucky, kind of the program status at this time? Okay. Moving on. So we had a couple things going on this past quarter in Indiana. This one right here, this is about the cost increase request. So Kefta is still planning, we're still planning on having a call for projects for new MPO dedicated projects in the fall of this year. And so we wanted to make sure that all of our existing projects are taken care of in terms of fully funding as much, or at least as much as we can, for the projects that TPC previously awarded funds to. So these are all of those projects that needed either additional funds or needed, in the case of Clarksville's Blackston Mill Road Phase 2 and Floyd County Charlestown Road, those are completely new construction phases that previously were not funded. So we were able to take care of all the requests that were submitted. And I'd just like to make a note, the Blackston Mill Road Phase 2 and the Charlestown Road, previously in the packet that was sent out, the fiscal year was indicated that those would be programmed in 2024, but those will actually move up to 2023. Those sponsors were able to advance their project schedules a little faster than we originally anticipated. So these are the cost increase requests. Because we had enough funding, we didn't need any action from a TTCC working group on this one. We did, however, convene a TTCC working group to determine how we should recommend that TPC award the remaining fiscal year 2022 funds. So this situation has been a little bit complicated, but about 3 or 4 months ago, we were alerted that there was a delay with Bridge 51. It's a Floyd County project, but it crosses both Clarksville and New Albany boundaries, as well as Clark and Floyd. And because of the delay, we had to push back the right-of-way phase that was scheduled this fiscal year. That created a funding gap of about $900,000 that we quickly needed to find a home for because, again, in Indiana, it's use it or lose it. And we don't want to lose these funds, obviously, to the region. These represent about 20% of what we receive annually. So we held several meetings with sponsors on how to kind of tackle this. And in January, sponsors submitted potential projects. We call it a mini call for projects because we really didn't want to commit future funds to these projects. We really just wanted to provide a stopgap for this fiscal year. So we received 7 projects. And at the end of the day, the TTCC working group's decision was somewhat out of their hands in that the 3 projects that are not recommended for funding, Clark County Bridge 114, Clarksville Progress Way, and Clarksville Stantifer Avenue, are all looking for traditional design funds for roadway projects. And NDOT staff told us there's basically not enough time between when TPC would take action at the end of the month until the end of April to actually have those funds obligated. So they were kind of off the table in a sense. And so all we really had to work with was the 4 projects you see on the left. And the reason why these projects can move forward quickly, the first 2, Clark County's Transit and Multimodal Planning Study and New Albany's State Street Congestion Mitigation Planning Study, as indicated in the project names, these are planning studies. And we are able to flex these funds to Kefta's Metropolitan Planning dollars, our PL funds. And those are funds we typically receive for staff as well as completing individual planning studies. So we're able to flex these projects over to PL, put them in our UPWP, and advance them more quickly, or we will have more time to advance them than we would the traditional roadway projects. Likewise, the 2 TARP projects, bus stop improvements in New Albany
and about 5 vehicles for mobility on demand service. Those can also be flexed, and they can be flexed to FTA. And because of that, it will also give us more time to make sure those funds are obligated and we don't lose them. So that's a whole lot of information about a very complicated process that we've been working on for 3 months now. I can take any comments or questions that you may have at this time. If not, the action that would be requested is to recommend TPC approval of the new projects recommended by the TTCC working group and the cost increases requested by the Indiana project sponsors.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye or show of hands.
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, Nick, that passes on. Thank you very much. Nick, do you have anything else to add?
You know, I was going to mention in other business that the RAISE grant. So the RAISE grant is a huge infrastructure competitive grant opportunity that the U.S. Department of Transportation just announced, up to I think $1.5 billion potentially. I know a lot of our project sponsors are interested in applying for those funds. I believe the application deadline is quickly approaching. It's April 14th. In urban areas, you can request between $5 million and $25 million, and in urban areas, you can request between $5 and $25 million. In rural areas, I think it's between 1 and 25. So there's a lower threshold for rural areas. So that opportunity is out there. I was going to mention at the end of the meeting, but this is a good time as any. So if you have, if you'd like letters of support from us, please let us know. If you're planning to apply, you know, make sure that project's in our MTP. That's always a good thing to be able to tell the feds that it's in our plan. And if you have any comments or questions, I'll try my best to help.
And Nick, just to kind of jump off on that, last year, starting the year before, but into or I guess 2 years ago, this was the build grant under the Trump administration. Every administration changes it a little bit. It was the Tiger grant once before that. Then it was the build grant. Now it's the RISE grant. And we did look at moving forward with that. We got very close to getting the build grant. Here in Bullitt County, we started to, basically they told us, you know, just to come back and do it again. There are some different maneuvers. If you went through and tried to do the build grant and are going through this, there are some different steps and some different things that you have to add to it. So that's just kind of from being on the front line with that a little bit and going through some of that process. That is just kind of a word of warning, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely pay attention to those kind of keywords, those buzzwords that are in there. I think a lot of it stems from or alludes to, you know, climate, resiliency, sustainability, and things of that nature. So yeah, there's definitely a new focus or foci from the new administration.
Yeah,
exactly.
Keith, I would add also that maybe more reason to pay attention to our February TPC meetings when we get some guidance from FHWA, because yesterday's build grant, today's RAISE grant, and then tomorrow's all of the discretionary grant programs that are out of the new infrastructure bill.
Right.
Some of there's still more questions than answers on many of them, and so each one will have its nuance.
Absolutely. Yeah. The next TPC meeting is going to be very important.
Definitely.
All right, any other questions for Nick? Hearing none, we'll move on to Elizabeth, the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan Amendment.
Good afternoon. My action item is very quick. So in TARC triennial review desk audit, the Federal Transit Administration noted that they would like to see the list of projects that have received Section 5310 funding, which is for the elderly, individuals, and individuals with disabilities program. Since they would like to see that list, we're going to add it to the coordinated plan. So I'm just seeking recommendation for approval to amend the plan with that list we will keep it updated as we can. So all these projects are existing in the TIP. These are not new funding awards, so just simply the listing added to the plan.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the amendment to the plan. Was that correct, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay. I see Arthur's got his mute off, so I'm thinking you're going to make the motion.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any questions for Elizabeth? Hearing none, all in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you all.
Had trouble with my computer here for a second. I'm sorry. Next, we have Jeremy Shaw. Jeremy is a new member of the team and is going to go over the performance management plan.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone. Getting the presentation pulled up. Jeremy Shaw will be discussing the performance management plan update, specifically related to the federal highway safety performance measures, or PM1. For an overview, I'll give the performance management plan update, and then get into the crash data that we were seeing in 2021, and then go over the safety baselines and targets. We'll have some Q&A or discussion, and then an action requested for TPC approval of the baselines and targets. So the performance management plan and this presentation related to the safety targets is a collection of performance measures prescribed by the Federal Highway Administration. There are 5. So there's the fatalities, fatality rate, serious injury rate, and those non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. That's PM1. PM2 is pavement and bridge, and PM3 is related to congestion and air quality, which those will be updated later in the year. The Kefta measures, those were discussed in the previous TTCC and approved at the January TPC. And then the 4-year performance update will be, the federal highway has a deadline of 22, and Kefta's will be in early 23. So here's 4 graphs of the 21 overview for the Kefta region. We have fatalities and serious injuries and the non-motorized, I'll call them F and SI for fatalities and serious injuries. And then the next slides will look more closely at these. So for the Kefta region overview, these are broken down by, of course, the 5 federal measures, and then also by year. So for the region, we saw just slight decreases in fatalities and the non-motorized F and SI. And for serious injuries, we saw increases in those, and those values are slightly subjective, which I'll discuss a little bit more when I get into the baselines and targets. Fatality rate, so that incorporates VMT, or vehicular miles traveled. So if you notice that 2020, of course, was an anomaly year. So that spiked, and then we saw a slight decrease last year, still elevated with higher number of fatalities and a lower number of VMT. So fatalities by county and year, you can see the 5 counties in the Kefta region, with Jefferson County much higher, and we'll look at sort of a trend when we get into the non-motorized category. Serious injuries, as I noted, because of the Indiana method of reporting serious injuries, we have to look at only a fraction or we have to look at some percentage of those due to the way they're reported by the law enforcement. So those numbers, at least for Indiana, are, when we look at the 5-year trend, those are a little bit skewed. Non-motorized, as you can note, Jefferson County has elevated numbers for this category, which can most likely be attributed to the urban environment, and the other 4 counties are primarily rural. This still isn't good. It's just kind of showing that there are more, bicyclists and pedestrians due to the urban environment. So for the federal requirements, we look at targets and baselines, and these are based on 5-year rolling averages. So for this year, the baseline was set at the 2016 to 2020 range, and then the target would be the 2018 through 2022 range. So as in previous years, or at least last year, we assumed that the number of fatalities would be equal, for 2022, would be equal to 2021. And that's how it was, so last year it was 2020 equal to 2021. So we calculated the 5-year rolling averages to get the baseline and the target. And these are methods that are prescribed by federal highway. So a little bit constrained in that we can't set targets that are, aspirational. So we have to use these methods for now. As previously noted, the fatality rate continues to increase, especially in 2022, 2021, when fatalities were elevated and the VMT was much lower. And we looked at the VMT. We had to make an assumption for 2022 for 2021, which we use streetlight, and that data is not available until closer to summertime. So we had to make an assumption based on what data we had, which was to use approximately 95% of 2019 or pre-pandemic data to calculate the fatality rate. Serious injuries. So fatality rates and overall fatalities appear to be increasing. Serious injuries and serious injury rate appear to be declining, but as previously noted, the reporting methods for Indiana and Kentucky are different, and so we have to use a factor for this. Non-motorized. For the 10-year trend, the injuries and fatalities and serious injuries for non-motorized. The slope is upward trending, although if you look at the past 7 or 8 years, it appears to be leveling off. It's still elevated much higher than one would hope. There's a summary table of targets and baselines, which we're looking for approval of these. And you can see, so the green is the current baseline and target, and the orange, brown, that's the previous years, where you can see the target and baseline, and then the actual data that was pulled for those years. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, take comments that anyone has.
Any questions or concerns for Jeremy? And Jeremy, you do need action on this?
Correct.
Okay, so we need a motion for a recommendation for TPC approval of the Performance Management Plan Annual Update. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, heard a couple of folks. I think Dirk was out there. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who is that? I'm sorry, you went in.
Miguel Zamora.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
This is Dirk. I just want to say that I know that we're fighting in a headwind here, but it just still hurts me to think that we have a target that increases those fatality numbers.
Sure.
Yeah,
we have. Okay. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Jeremy, and welcome aboard. All right, Andy, any other business?
Couple of things of note. Last week, Judge Vogel, who I mentioned earlier, is our incoming Kefta Transportation Policy Committee Chair, was sent a letter from Kentucky Division of Federal Highway Administration regarding our upcoming federal certification review. Okay, so every 4 years, the MPO is a certain size, and Kefta is well above that size, gets certified through this federal certification review process. And so a date to note for everybody on the call today is June 22nd and 23rd. That is when the site visit will occur, and that site visit will be here primarily at Kefta, and that a group of federal transportation officials along with EPA will be on site to for a day-and-a-half process that will have, I think we're scheduling a tour in the morning to go look at some recent projects. There'll be an afternoon to day one where it'll be kind of question and answer, hearing type format, if you will, with Kefta staff and with agency staff. Many of you hopefully will be involved in that. Everybody's certainly invited, and I hope many of you will be there. Later that evening, there'll be a public hearing. In day two, will be more of back and forth Q&A discussion with our federal partners and us, and then it will all culminate with the federal partners will provide a preliminary findings to the Kefta TPC at our June 23rd meeting. So real exciting time, a lot of it's a good chance for not only Kefta staff, but you folks in your agencies to share the good things that have been going on over the last several years. Again, it's a once every 4 year opportunity to do just that. So I do want to make sure everybody has that on the calendars because it's now official. It's now official with that letter that I mentioned. One other thing I might mention, I think Nora actually put it in the chat, is that there's going to be some upcoming performance measure training that Kefta staff will be a part of, and hopefully KYTC and maybe anybody's welcome to join us on that as well. Nora, do you want to say anything about that and or Ms. Boris's appearance at TPC later this month?
I think you said it. I think you said it all, Andy. Yes, so looking forward to the training. I think there's a limit, though, to the number of attendees, so we'll know that. I mean, whoever wants to attend, just contact me or contact Andy, and we'll work on that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to cover general TPM and knowledge base. Even if you have none, it will be introduction to it, and then going more into details. MPOs, KYTC, any of the staff who's interested is welcome. And these are the dates for the three sessions. And then for the DDA visit, no, just looking forward. I'll be there in person. My supervisor, Joan Ballantyne, probably will be, and Bernadette. So all three of us will meet you on that day. So looking forward to that again. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Nora. And one thing I want to note too is that the presentation you just heard from Jeremy, those performance measures, those safety performance measures, perhaps in particular, but it runs the gamut. Kefta has gone above and beyond on these performance measures, and so in some of the feedback we've gotten from in communications we've had with our federal highways partners, and we think it's a big deal. We always think it has been, and so but a lot of our counterpart agencies aren't doing as much in the performance measures. So it's something that I think we're proud of. It's something I know we work hard on, and so hopefully we can provide some good feedback that either helps others and also helps us going forward on that front. I didn't have anything else. Did anybody else in the room need to say anything? Okay. All right, Keith, I think that's all we have from the workroom.
I appreciate that, Andy, and just to kind of piggyback off of Andy's comments about the importance of the feedback that the staff gives. We really do go into some of these conferences and seeing some of the other, I'm not going to throw stones at the other ad districts, but I guess I am. We're really blessed to have the staff that we have here. And I think to not appreciate all that they do I don't know that we tell you guys that enough, but we really are far ahead of the other ad districts. There's no question. So again, I'm a little prejudiced, but that's okay. I'll stand by it.
Thank you for saying that, Keith, on behalf of all Kefta staff.
It's all true. And I think the vast majority, if not all the participants here would say the exact same thing.
Keith, you need a motion on that?
You can make a motion on that. We'll get something written up and we'll make a motion.
Please do. I feel the same way.
And we appreciate what you all do. So that's my spiel. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Anything else before we ask for a motion to adjourn? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right.
Second, Armstrong.
I got it. I think we've got enough there. All in favor, turn off your computers.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening. God bless y'all. God bless you.